The sun rose slowly over the village of Umuaka, its golden rays lighting the dew that clung stubbornly to the tall elephant grasses at the edge of the forest. The roosters had already crowed, women were sweeping their compounds, and smoke curled from the clay kitchens. Life in the village was as it had always been, slow, peaceful, and wrapped in the mysteries of the forest. Obinna, a tall young man with broad shoulders and hard-working hands, was known across the village as one of the most diligent farmers. He had lost his parents at a young age, but built his life with sweat and persistence. At 26, he was admired by many, though some whispered that his loneliness was unusual. Most men his age had wives and children, but Obinna remained single. The maidens of the village admired him, but he never seemed to notice. Some even thought perhaps he had a secret lover from another village, but Obinna always smiled and said nothing. One evening, as he returned from his farm, Obinna walked through the narrow bush path that led past the river Nadi. The moonlight spilled its silver glow across the water, and Obinna stopped for a moment to drink. As he bent near the river, he heard a soft humming. It was not the cry of a bird, nor the sound of wind. It was a woman's voice, sweet, haunting, and so beautiful that his heart trembled. Slowly, he looked across the water. There, sitting on a rock at the river bank, was a young woman. Her skin glowed like polished bronze. Her hair was long and black, and her eyes shone like stars caught in the water. She was the most beautiful maiden Obinna had ever seen. She smiled when she saw him, and his breath caught in his chest. "Good evening, farmer," she said, her voice smooth as honey. Obinna stammered, "Good evening. I have never seen you in this village before." She laughed softly, the sound carrying through the night air like a spell. "My name is Adana," she replied. "I am from a distant place, but tonight the river carried me here." From that night, Obinna's life changed. He found himself returning to the river again and again. Each time, Adana was there, waiting. They talked for hours, and Obinna felt as though he had known her his whole life. In a few weeks, he could no longer hold back his feelings. "Adana," he said one night, standing by the river, "I do not know what charm you have placed on me, but I cannot live without you. Will you be my wife?" Adana's eyes darkened for a moment, as though a shadow passed through them. But then she smiled. "Yes, Obinna, I will be your wife," she whispered. "But you must promise me one thing. You will never ask me where I go when I disappear, and you will never try to follow me when I leave at night." Obinna, drunk in love, agreed without hesitation. He thought her words were strange, but love had blinded him. Soon they were married in a small ceremony. The villagers were shocked that Obinna had found a wife from nowhere, but they could not deny her beauty. Adana was graceful, respectful, and hardworking. She cooked delicious meals, cleaned the house, and helped Obinna in the farm. For a while, Obinna believed he had found heaven on earth. But then, strange things began to happen in Umuaka. One morning, the body of a neighbor, Mama Ifeoma, was found near her hut. There were no wounds, but her face was pale, her eyes wide open as if she had seen something terrifying before death. The villagers whispered of evil spirits, of witches and dark forces roaming at night. A week later, another villager died. Again, the body was found without a single wound, but the victim's face was twisted in fear. Fear gripped the village. The elders gathered at the square, pouring libations and consulting the Dibya, the village priest. The gods are angry, the Dibya declared. Obinna listened, his heart heavy, but he never suspected his wife. Adina was gentle, loving, and always by his side. She cried when villagers died and even comforted the bereaved families. But unknown to Obinna, his nights of peace were not as peaceful as he thought. Whenever darkness fell, Adina would wait until her husband was fast asleep. Then she would quietly slip from the bed, her feet making no sound on the clay floor. She would step outside into the night, and beneath the shadows of the palm trees, her body would begin to change. Her smooth skin would ripple and shimmer, her legs twisting and joining into a single long scaly tail. Her eyes would glow green like fireflies, and her tongue would flicker in and out. Adina was not just a woman, she was a snake, cursed and bound to hunger for human life. Each night, she slithered silently into the huts of neighbors, sinking her fangs into their flesh. Her bite was quick and left no mark, but it drained the life from her victims, leaving them cold and pale by morning. Adina always returned before dawn, slipping back into bed beside her husband, her body once again human. Obinna would wake, hold her close, and never imagine that the woman in his arms was the same monster killing his neighbors. But evil cannot remain hidden forever. One night, after the fifth death in the village, Obinna noticed something strange. His wife lay beside him, but her skin was unusually cold. When he reached for her hand, she pulled away quickly. "Are you well?" Obinna asked. "Yes," she replied too quickly. "Go back to sleep." But Obinna could not. That night, curiosity burned in his chest. He pretended to sleep, his breath slow and steady. At midnight, he felt the bed shift. He opened his eyes slightly and saw Adina rise silently. She glanced at him, then slipped out of the hut. Obinna's heart pounded. He remembered her warning that he should never follow her. But something stronger than fear pushed him to his feet. Quietly, he followed her into the dark. What he saw made his blood freeze. At the edge of the forest, bathed in moonlight, his wife began to transform. Her legs twisted, her skin shimmered, and before his eyes, the woman he loved became a giant snake. Obinna's knees weakened. He wanted to scream, to run, but his voice caught in his throat. He watched as the snake girl slithered away towards the hut at the far end of the village. He stumbled back to his hut, his body shaking, his mind in chaos. The truth was more terrifying than anything he had imagined. He was married to the very creature killing his neighbors. Yet, when Adana returned before dawn, her face was calm, her smile sweet. She lay beside him and whispered, "I love you." Obinna could not speak. He closed his eyes, pretending to sleep, while tears slipped silently down his face. The next day, the villagers buried another victim. Whispers grew louder. Some said the deaths were no ordinary misfortune, that an evil spirit lived among them in human form. Obinna's chest ached with guilt. He knew the truth, but how could he reveal it? If he spoke, would anyone believe him? And if they did, what would they do to Adana? He still loved her, despite the horror of what she was. But the killings did not stop, and soon the people of Umuaka began to suspect him. The days grew darker in Umuaka. The villagers no longer moved freely at night. The laughter of children that once echoed in the compounds grew silent as fear crept into every heart. 7 deaths had shaken the village, all without explanation. The Dibia spoke of shadows and evil spirits, but no sacrifice seemed to bring peace. At the center of it all, Obinna carried a secret heavier than stone. Each time he looked at Adanna, his chest twisted. She smiled at him, cooked for him, spoke to him with gentle words, but he could not forget the night he saw her skin ripple and twist into scales. Every evening, his stomach churned. Would she leave the bed again? Would another innocent villager die before dawn? His silence became unbearable. He thought of telling the elders, but fear stopped him. Would they accuse him of protecting an evil spirit? Would they cast him out? Or worse, kill Adanna before his eyes? One evening, Obinna sat outside his hut, staring at the orange sky as the sun melted behind the hills. His neighbor Namdi approached him. "Obinna," Namdi said softly, sitting on the wooden stool beside him. "You have changed. You no longer laugh. You no longer join us at the square. What troubles you?" Obinna forced a smile. "Nothing, my brother. These are heavy times. Fear is everywhere." Namdi nodded. "It is true. But, Obinna, some people have begun to whisper your name." Obinna's heart stopped. "My name? For what reason?" "They say the deaths began after you married your strange wife," Namdi said carefully. "They say you are hiding something. I do not believe it, but I beg you, do not let silence destroy you. If you know something, speak, before the village turns against you." Obinna's throat tightened. He wanted to confess, to pour out the truth, but his heart betrayed him. He looked toward his hut, where Adanna was pounding yam, her waist moving gracefully, her voice humming a soft tune. How could he condemn her? That night, Obinna pretended to sleep again, and just as before, Adanna slipped quietly from the bed. This time, his heart told him not to follow, but his fear forced his legs to move. He crept behind her, watching from the shadows. She walked deeper into the forest than before. When she reached a clearing, she began to sing in a language Obinna did not understand. Her body shimmered, her limbs twisted, and again she became the monstrous snake. But this time, something else happened. From the shadows of the trees, other snakes slithered toward her. Giants, black and hissing, they surrounded her as though she were their queen. Adanna raised her head, her tongue flickering, and hissed words that chilled Obinna's bones. "My hunger grows. The village fears me, but they do not know. Soon I shall drain them all, and when my hunger is satisfied, I will leave this place with my husband, my precious Obinna, who knows nothing." Obinna stumbled backward, almost falling. His wife, planning to destroy the entire village. He rushed back before she saw him, his chest pounding, his body trembling. That night, when Adanna returned, She lay beside him as though nothing had happened. She touched his face and whispered, "I love you." But Obinna turned away, silent. The next morning, the villagers gathered again. This time, anger burned in their eyes. "This cannot continue," Chief Okoro shouted in the square. "9 graves in 1 month. The gods are not deaf. Something evil lives among us." The people murmured in agreement. Eyes darted toward Obinna. The whispers grew louder. "It is Obinna's wife. Since she came, our people have been dying. Why do we not see her family? Where did she come from? She's beautiful, yes, but beauty can hide evil." Obinna stood frozen, his palms sweating. Adana stood beside him, her face calm, her eyes innocent. She even shed a tear as the people spoke. "My people," she said, her voice trembling, "I know you fear me because I am not from here. But I swear by the gods, I have no hand in these deaths. I love this village and I love my husband. If you want me to leave, I will go, but I am not guilty." Her words touched many hearts. Some nodded, others frowned, unconvinced. But Obinna's silence became his greatest enemy. He said nothing to defend her. He said nothing to accuse her. His silence was like oil poured on fire.